We are on a two-part series.
Yes, and we are going to be learning all about the CSTs. Oh, I almost did it again. This whole time I've been screwing up the CST with CRT. What is the CST?
How do they start?
And what kind of capabilities do they have? So let's get into the interview.
Before we get into the advertising, like and subscribe to the show. But you know what the worst part about arriving at a hazmat scene is?
Knowing that 3 hours from now, your shoulders is going to be killing you from wearing a 60-minute bottle.
That is a terrible thing, but also uncertainty. You have to know what's in the air.
Oh, so you don't like the assumption of it's just a chemical, right? That doesn't cut it for you anymore? No, because you need answers and you need them fast.
And that's where the Explorer comes in. It's real-time chemical ID and quantification right in the field.
So nobody's turning around going, yeah, it's probably something bad. This machine is going to tell you exactly what's there and how much it is.
Which allows you to set up your safety zones like an adult and not a rookie guessing where to put the tape.
Giving you defensible, quantitative data in seconds, which is going to make your decision-making a hell of a lot easier.
So don't wait anymore for an answer. You just get your solid life-saving intel.
Go to 908devices.com and check the Explorer out and stop guessing.
You know, on a hazmat scene, the question is never if radiation matters. It's where you're going to find it.
Yeah, and half the time when it comes to radiation, it's going to find you first. That's why on unknowns, RADs is one of the first things that we're going to check.
Yeah, it's because you're not seeing it, you're not smelling it, and you probably could miss it if you're already in it.
Which is why teams are running the Teledyne FLIR Defense Identifinders.
Right. This isn't a one-size-fits-all tool. They've got handheld RIDs, wearable personals, even backpack systems.
Whether you're the first guy walking in or the one building out the team's big picture on scene, there's something that fits the job for you.
And these aren't theoretical tools. These are out there getting used every day by teams that actually rely on radiation data to make their decisions.
So go check them out. Search for the FLIR, which is FLIR, Identifinder. That's FLIR Identifinder. And as promised, we were going to look into a solution to battery fires. And while many companies have presented their products to us, there is one noteworthy one because it is actually extinguishing the lithium-ion battery fires. It's going to work on multiple classes of fire, right? No one-trick pony hanging out here. It's going to prevent the spread of fire, and it's going to prevent the lithium-ion batteries from reigniting.
And before that, keyboard warrior starts caps locking, asking for proof. The links are going to be in show notes for UL Class A and B, as well as the BSI for 10 categories, including that lithium-ion battery.
Yeah, and despite my next-door neighbor's best bets, we are putting this through our own field tests, often in our own backyard. And I got to be honest with you, we were impressed with the results. Now, we suggest you do your own myth-busting in your own backyard with your own neighbors, but it is available in a variety of options, and it's going to integrate into whatever your current process is. Check them out at Fire Suppression Solutions or click on the link in the show notes.
We're back with another episode with Colonel. Colonel retired? How do you say
Colonel
that?
retired. Jeff is fine. Colonel retired, yes.
I love it. We listen, if you didn't go back, listen to 548, where we started cracking open this walnut because, and I say it jokingly as a walnut because a lot of people know the CSTs are out there, but they don't know what the capabilities are, and we're trying to crack into that, and Jeff is doing a great job of explaining it. We just finished talking about a very lightweight what they can do, and I want to kind of push in that direction. But I have one question. Actually, I wrote two questions down, and I think they're kind of related. Is that you alluded to in the last one that you have, let's say, the first CST, which is you have a state that is very hazmat-y, and they do hazmat things. And I can imagine, much like the New York City team, that when you have teams that handle their own stuff consistently, it almost dulls the blade of the CST because they're not getting the reactions, they're not getting the reps and the, whereas a rural one would be like, I'm in on everything, I'm getting work, I'm getting reps. How do you trade guys around the system? Because that means you're uprooting a family pretty much. How does that work?
What do you mean trade guys around the system? Move them around from?
Like if you could you take a Massachusetts guy and move him like to Arkansas?
Oh, yeah. Oh, understood. So, I just thought I'll answer your question in 2 seconds, but I should have, in the first episode, said as a disclaimer, I have not been on a CST for a couple of years, so my knowledge might be a little bit older. I don't want to, tick anybody off in the CST community where I misspoke. I'm talking about a couple of years ago. That's, but yeah, so to answer your question, again, as we talked about in the first episode, everybody in the CST community goes through the same training, right? So you could, in theory, pluck somebody out of Massachusetts and send them to Guam, or vice versa. There's a couple of things to talk about there. So there is a community, and I don't want to say transients, that sounds negative, but of people that love the CST job, absolutely love it. It's the best job in the military bar none. The problem is, you can't stay in the CST forever in the military. The military looks at you and says, we're going to promote you, we're going to move you out, we're going to transfer you, or whatever. Now, we all want to stay because it's the best job.
Could I ask why, real quick? I find it weird. Like, if the New York City Fire Department was like, "Yeah, we dumped all these years of education into you, but you can't be here for more than like 5 years. We have to move you on." I'd be like, "What a waste of resources!" Like, what's the rationale behind that? And I know that has nothing to do with what we're doing, but what?
I can only speak on the Army. I can't speak on the Air Force side of things, but the Army says, "Thou shalt do certain jobs for so many years, get your military education, your professional military education, and then you either promote or you lateral, and you try to keep moving forward," right? So that's the balance in the CST community. We want to keep the talent, because by the time you get done with your training at that 3-year-ish window, you're really just cutting your teeth, right? And the normal rotation in the military is about 2 to 4 years for an officer and about 3 to 6 for an NCO. Yeah, and there's differences on that, right? There's just generalities. So at that 3-year window, we finally got you trained. We don't want to lose you. We want to keep you for another 3 or 4 years. We had good luck in my state where our higher headquarters understood that. And I was actually at our higher headquarters for a while above the CST. That'd be like a battalion in the fire world, right? And we would pull people up. And we had the state active duty mission. So if there's a state venue, we could pull people out of the CST, let them do a tour of duty for a year or 2 or 3, and then rotate them back for a promotion down the road, right? So we are able to do that. Not as clean as we'd like for everybody, but it gave us a little bit of wiggle room and a little bit of flexibility, because that's always the balancing act on the civil support side of things. Civil support team side of things is keeping that talent, keeping that training, keeping that education, so you can do the mission, but you don't punish the soldier or the airman, because on the Army side, there's a retirement at 20 years, and they do a retention board when you cross that timeline. And if the system says, "Hey, man, Sergeant Wynn was at the CST for 15 years and done nothing else in his career or her career," they're going to say, like, they're not really valuable to the big Army overall, and it's time to non-retain them and let them retire at 20. So to go back to your question, Mike, there's a lot of people that love the mission. All of us love the mission. It's the best mission in the Army by far than anything else. And I'll fight over that point for the record, anybody that wants to put in the comments, right? But so we found a lot of people. There's again, I don't want to be negative, like a transient population, like, "Hey, I'm the NIMSO in Pennsylvania. I can't get promoted any longer. I'm on the chopping block potentially from a retention standpoint. I want to continue to serve. Hey, the Virgin Islands got a science officer vacancy. I'm going to transfer." And so you find a lot of people that do exactly that. They jump around from a couple of different CSTs to CSTs, or much like the fire service, they're in a sleepy, I don't want to be negative, they're in a CST that's not as busy as others, and they see an opportunity to go to a busier one, because, as you know, people in our business typically want to be in the mix. They want to be busy. They want to be active. So you do see people moving around, and that's the beauty of the program is, again, you can plug and play somebody from Massachusetts into Guam, somebody from Guam into Indiana. It doesn't matter. Yes, there's always train up when you get to the new place, because every CST, as we talked about in the first episode, kind of supports that civil authority with what that civil authority needs. In Massachusetts, as you said, Bobby, we're a very hazmat state. We supported that IC, that incident commander, that venue planner with more of the JHAT sort of mission, the more pre-planned mission, that sort of thing, working at venues and stuff like that. Less on the hazmat side of things, except in some unusual circumstances. Now, to further that along, so you don't stay stale, or as you're talking about, the reps, as you said, Bobby. One of the things a CST can do and did a lot in the early days before hazmat really grew post pre 9/11 and pre Boston Marathon is they still do now, but train with your local counterparts, right? So we trained a lot with our state hazmat assets on a regular basis, whether it was just the state hazmat teams going out to their monthly drills, attending monthly drills, or with our JHAT folks doing specialized training, specialized event planning, working on BG4s, or with our local Boston Fire, et cetera. We had those relationships and those networks that just continue to grow year after year after year. And your earlier comment about 912, how do you call CST 912? The commander and deputy in the OPSO always kept the same phone. So when you rotated out of the team, your replacement would receive your phone. So I would still get calls in 2019 from Boston Fire that had the number going back to, the early 2001, 2002 days, because they just had a programmed in CST, and they would call for either, emergency type thing or just training or just a network, and do like a, soft reach back, if you will, that sort of thing. So my advice to anybody listening, if they haven't reached out to their CST, reach out, and you can Google it. You can go to your state National Guard website, and there'll be a way to find them, either an email, generic email, a phone number, or some sort of 24-hour line where you can say, hey, I'd like to talk to somebody, send an email, just to start building that relationships. And I think a lot of states already have that relationship solidly built. You can do that soft reach back, you can do that reach back, you can do that training, you can do that deployment, you can just do that, just good old fashioned networking.
Our CST did like a week or two riding along with us on every incident. Like they slept in the fire. They came to they lived in our firehouse for like 2 weeks, and it was like, what was it, 6 or 7 guys that would ride?
Was that the CST? Was that the CSTs, or was that the Marines? That may have been. I think
it was the CSTs.
That may have been
wrong.
They may have been like the Marine
Seabirth, the Marine Seabirth.
Seabirth.
Oh yeah,
I think they
might have been them.
The CSTs we would train with at the Rock.
Okay.
They would come down. We would do extensive trainings with them back and forth. They would sit in a lot of our classes. They would run through a lot of our refreshers. We would do joint ventures with PD. I guess along those, we didn't call it JHAT, right? We just called it crap. We got to train with the cops day. We definitely. But we don't. I've never been on a call in the 18 and a half years in which we reached out to the CSTs for anything. And looking back on it, I kind of regret that. Like, there's definitely some scenes that I really feel like they could have been useful. One of the ones I'm thinking of is that one with the hotel and the explosives. Like, I think they would have been a really good fit, like hearing all the things that you're saying, to call them up and be like, hey, you want to come check this out with us before we run this up the flagpole to the higher agencies?
We were lucky in my state because we had we have a dispatch texting. I don't know if I'm allowed to say names, but I am responding. And the CST, a couple select people were on the state's hazmat I am responding. So anytime there is a hazmat call, we got paged as well for awareness, situational awareness, visibility. We did the same when I was at the state hazmat teams with our FBI counterparts as well. So if certain calls, obviously the FBI is a little bit more excited or interested in, but if nothing else on the CST side, when our hazmat teams for the state were rolling out, we're aware. And sometimes we lean forward and say, hey, I know you're the boss, we're standing by if you need anything. And just, because if you're the incident commander, or you're the lead on a hazmat, you might not be thinking of what else you can call in. So we don't want to bother them, but we don't want to buff the call either. But we had that open network and that open relationship of communications.
That's a great, I mean, even as the colonel or the boss of the team, you're getting this call in. You're like, we're probably not going to go out on this, but everybody spin up. Let's tabletop this puppy out. And almost run it in like real time as if you were there. Pull the rigs out, get the decon set up, all that
And
stuff,
we did
and
that.
just get your legs going, man. And
we would do that as a training exercise. Absolutely. Just
great.
I didn't do it at 3 a.m. to be a horrible boss, but if we were in the office and we knew district whatever, 4:30, right? Sun's coming up. We would on occasion do that, and we would go through our own SOGs and checklists. So like, okay, the city of whatever has this call. What are we thinking about? Let's pull up the graphics. Let's get satellite shots. What are we thinking about for threat? What are we thinking about for decon? What are we thinking about for PPE? And we would go through our own internal staff exercise. It wouldn't last that long, but it was a good, what do you call it in the fire service? Kitchen table drill, if you will.
Yeah, tabletop.
We didn't do that all the time, and I'm sure some of the people that I used to work with would be like, "He's full of it. We never did that." I'm like, "Well, we did.
Doesn't have to
not
be
every time.
day.
Not every time,
right? Yeah, but just enough to keep the wheels greased.
Yeah, I should have got my Yeti cup here.
I would have appreciated, like, if the CST, if we had an incident such as like the one that Mike's talking about, which is an episode in the past that we did. But if the CSTs came to us the week afterwards and said, guys, let me show you what we spun up and we plotted, and let me pitch you how we would have done this, I would have been like, that's a great, it would have been like, I didn't see that angle.
Yeah.
That's great.
Or even just like hey, like, we're going to drill on this. Tell us what you did. Like, tell us what you saw. Tell us what the variables were. And we're going to see if we can come up with, if we landed in the same spot. And then how would we have veered differently? That would have been spectacular. I would have loved, looking back on it, I would have loved to have had them on scene, because it really was something that it had somebody who had been more proficient at some of the higher end devices, which we have. But I will be honest with you, I am certainly no expert in GCMS. But you guys have an expert on GCMS, right? So that GCMS guy could have come on down, done their thing, and been like, okay, this is what I'm seeing, and this is why.
Yeah. It's almost like a reach back on scene. It's an opportunity.
All right. So then,
well, can I interrupt you, Mike, Bobby, for a minute?
Please.
Just thinking out loud, in our early days of working with local authorities, we always let off our intros with, we compete for none of your funding, none of your overtime, none of your grants, none of your budget. And it's a legit concern, right? Right. So, and I'm sure the bosses at the National Guard Bureau, when I'll say the CSTs are free, will be clenching up a little bit, but they are. They're free. They don't compete with you for funding, for overtime, for a job. So you can call them, and you've got a paid for asset in your back pocket, whether it's just a reach back or the full team deployment. So there's no competition for grants or funding or overtime or anything like that. And that's always something I think needs to be known out through the first responder community, because they're free. Call them up.
All right. So let's play a little game here. Let's say I am somebody in the continental United States, even further away, intergalactically, we'll say, that's listening to the show, and you're like, you know what? I really should reach out and find my CST and start. So I can look up, find phone numbers and emails, right? How would you recommend me as let's say the incident commander, the battalion chief, the guy in charge of hazmat, to start that process and to investigate what the menu of CST services and their I got this Chinese menu of stuff. Is it you get package A, B, C, or is it like a la carte? How does the whole thing work? Today, our episode is brought to you by Rigaku Analytical Devices, who are the folks who have been perfecting the 1064 nanometer Raman longer than some of you guys have been doing hazmat.
And they now have their 4th generation handheld analyzer. Yeah, they've been around long enough for 4 generations. And we're talking about the Icon X, which has been specifically built for real world stuff that the hazmat teams deal with every day. We're talking stuff like dirty powders, mixed materials, dyes, colors, all the things that throw us and our equipment into temper tantrums.
That 1064 nanometer laser means reduced fluorescence, so you're going to get fast, reliable chemical IDs in under a minute instead of staring there at the blank screen wondering what's going wrong.
And this isn't just an upgrade. This is an entire new platform, which means an entirely new toolbox. It supports new accessories, including standoff analyzations, which allows you to get answers without getting too close.
So if you want an analyzer that's been evolving right alongside the hazmat world, check out Rigaku's newest Raman at rigakuanalytical.com. You know what I love about the city?
Honestly, nothing.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing that I love about cities.
Well, my favorite now is the e-scooter gangs.
Oh, yeah. Because absolutely nothing screams hazmat like a moped with a battery that's about to go nuclear.
And that's where Obexian FR saves the day.
It's lightweight, mobile-friendly, and designed for the first responders because the last thing we need is extra weight when things are starting to heat up.
And it's third-party tested to lower the toxic gases below the ideal H levels.
Which means that you could actually breathe while you're putting out the scooter fire.
And if you need more, Obexian FR comes by the pallet load or in certified poly drum kits.
Yeah, which is perfect for when you walk into one of those e-scooter stores and your butt puckers and you go, I'm going to need a lot of this stuff.
So protect your team and your lungs. Learn more and go to thehazmatguys.dgeo.com. That's thehazmatguys.dgeo.com.
That's a great question. So again, I can only talk from my state and my experience, but I'm sure the other teams do similar. Send an email to your CST or a phone call and say you'd like to know more about their capabilities. And every team, not every team, I shouldn't say every team, but I assume every team has a couple of slide capability briefs, 10, 15 slides that go through the eaches of what the team can do, whether it's, again, that one person reach back over the phone or a full team deployment, all the vehicles, all the metering, all the technology, and then most importantly, how to contact the CST if you need the CST. And we always used to say in my state, because our ICs knew us, use a dotted line approach, call us up, we'll start our movement, start our operations, and then we'll work the official approval chain. Because there's still an approval chain. We still got to go through the bosses. It is what it is. But once we start that dotted line conversation, you call me direct, we start doing what you're asking for. I'll work the approval chain on my side, or I'll ask my bosses on the military side to start that process and what they need to do. So I would suggest that to the listeners, if they're not familiar, reach out, find your CST, your local one, and then ask for a capabilities brief or ask to learn more about what the CSTs have to offer. And they're more than happy to go out and provide that or invite you to their office or their building and show you, or any combination thereof. So
is that like a Zoom call initially, or is it like a lunch kind of thing?
Could be a Zoom call, could be an in-person presentation, it could be a show and tell at the office, whatever. I mean, in my state, we're blessed because there's not a lot of travel time, right? So we could go there, they could come to us. But post-pandemic, the Zoom idea is a good one too. And that's easily done. Yeah. And I would suggest that probably all 57 teams have got a pre-canned capabilities brief, a 101 brief, we used to call it, that they could give somebody looking for it. Now, CST, you got to kind of balance. Like, am I giving it to somebody in the fire service, emergency response management world? Yes, of course. Am I giving it to, my local,
Boy Scouts or something like that?
Yeah. And that we used to get those taskings, and if we could support them with our timeline, we absolutely would. But sometimes you're like we literally had one for the local Boy Scouts, who are great people, great Americans, don't get me wrong. But it was like, we've just worked 10 days at Sale Boston. We don't have the bandwidth right now. Can we schedule it for a couple months down the road, But yeah, that's basically it.
In my head, there's 57 of y'all. I imagine there's just like, some conference in Hawaii in which all the commanders kind of get together and bullshit.
Gotta go.
Probably not, right? But one can hope.
No, there is. Either way, not in Hawaii, but there is.
Okay.
It's usually an army post somewhere in the Midwest. But yes, there's the annual. It used to be. Again, my knowledge is a little bit old, but there used to be an annual commanders conference where once a year, the commander or their rep would go and go through the latest and greatest and initiatives and objectives and the state of the CST program and stuff like that, networking. But yeah, there was.
So in this conversation with other commanders, so hopefully you can speak to a whole. How would you and all the other commanders like to be used more? Like, what are times that you've been like, man, we could have really plugged in on that?
Interesting. So I gotta say, in my state, we're pretty blessed to be involved with as much as we could handle or want to handle, because we had those relationships and those networks built. And if we weren't plugged in, I would call up either my hazmat counterpart or my bomb squad counterpart and put the bug in their ear. And sometimes at a Major League Soccer game, there wasn't a need, right? So we didn't get involved. But other times, they'd say, glad you reached out. Let's, I need this capability, this number of people, and we'd have that. So we were kind of really blessed. But those relationships had been built over years and time and networks and stuff. So I can't talk to other teams, but I would suggest that's probably that probably is a concern with some teams. How can we get more involved, and how can we not be the CST sitting over here in one corner of the stadium while fire hazmat's over in this corner and public safety bomb squad's over in that corner? How can we integrate and network and actually work as a full joint team, as a real true J-hat type of thing? So I'm sure that's out there, but I can't speak on that, to be honest with you, because we were blessed, like I said.
Okay.
It seems like, the CSTs are a little bit more, I don't want to say rigid, but formed. Like, if somebody called up, Hazmat One and said, hey, listen, I need you guys to do this. And we look at each other and we're like, we don't do this, but we do now. Would the CST, if FDNY called up the CST and said, I need this, and you're like, this is not our mission set, would you guys have the flexibility of saying, it is now and we're going to do this? Like, can you do that? Like, move a little bit?
So that's a really broad question. The short answer is yes-ish. But as we knew in my team, if I ever told an IC no, I'm never getting invited back. Right. So we would, within the confines of our mission set.
Something like, I have an extreme decon situation and I need the CSTs to come in there. So you get science guys thinking about how to get it off. You have decon and everybody can cross train in that decon role. Like, would that be like, listen, we don't do just decon, but we do now. We'll come in.
Well, so that's a great example, because the CSTs like FDNY Hazmat does probably technical decon for them and right. Anybody that goes downrange, right? Like we didn't do mass decon, but I'm sure you folks got asked about mass decon on a regular basis. So, hey, we need mass decon set up. Like, so our answer wasn't no. It was more of, we can give you some advice and some support and show you and do some math and some analytics, and here's what we're going to need. So we didn't really ever say no, but sometimes we didn't truly say yes either, right? Because again, you want to support the IC. If the IC asks for something, in my mind, the IC should get what they're asking for, right? In some capacity, right? So recommendation in that scenario could be like, hey, we could bring in other National Guard assets in the state that have that capability. We'll make the call for you. We'll facilitate the movement of it. We'll start some preliminary work on the scene, that sort of thing. Because again, if I ever told an IC no, other than that the Boy Scout scenario, I never get invited back, right? So, and that's not the nature of what we do. We want to support what we're being asked to do, right? Because there's obviously something that's causing a need for support. So we want to get to yes, legally, morally, feasibly, that sort of thing, in the best we can. And at the end of the day, still have a military boss. So if we tell the military boss we're doing A, B, and C, and the bosses say, no, you're not, you explain, you justify why you're trying to. And at the end of the day, you might be told no on the military side of things, right? But again, in my state, we're pretty lucky that we did have a lot of flexibility and a lot of support from higher. So, it wasn't always a no.
What are some of the you'd mentioned before during your answer to be able to coordinate other National Guard equipment and resources? What would some of those resources be? Like, what is available to civilian teams through the National Guard?
Everything. Everything. So it depends on the state, right? So it depends on the state. And we've all seen the
I
news
need a
of
cannon.
Yeah. Well, we can do that. We can do that. We'll deliver it with a helicopter.
Yes.
We'll so
And then are you guys like the railroad? You just leave the equipment behind when you're done?
it depends on the equipment. No. So everybody's seen the news where the National Guard is activated for, flooding or snowstorms or hurricane responses. And that's the beautiful thing about the National Guard, right? Always ready, always there. They're, available. There are legal authorities and call-ups, which we won't go into here because it's A, boring, and B, we don't have a lot of time. But, basically the governor activates a capability of their National Guard. Now, not all National Guards are the same. Not everybody has a military police unit. Not everybody has an aviation unit. Every National Guard has a CST, of course. And one of the jobs of that CST is to help facilitate follow-on National Guard assets, depending on what it is. So the CST being full-time, they're out there earlier. The National Guard being, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, it takes time to generate those forces. So if you have, let's say, a flood, it's going to take time to generate manpower, bring them into the armories, get equipment going so they can move and fill sandbags and that sort of thing. At a pre-planned event, it's obviously a lot easier. The hurricane's going to make landfall in 3 or 4 days. You've got this large venue called the Boston Marathon in 2 months. Like, you can plan your assets and resource them and do that. A lot of that's on autopilot in my state. It happens on a regular basis. But if you're there as the CST and the IC says, holy cow, I need to put helicopters up in the sky to get better eyes on, we can help make that, or I shouldn't say we, I'm retired, but the CSTs can help take that off the IC's plate and start facilitating that follow-on mission set.
Would you guys ever throw recommendations out? Like, would you guys be like, hey, listen, I see this as a whole. We have the resources to cover this. Do you need it? Or strictly it has to be asked for?
No, definitely a recommendation. You know how it is working in ICP. A lot of great ideas fly around. I say ICP, that's a generic term. You're in a command post of some sort, right? A decision-making center. Yeah, absolutely. The recommendations are made like, hey, we've got this asset in the Guard that might be able to do this. We're going to need time to call them up. And so we've done that before. We can bring in that military support piece. We can bring in that chemical company.
Now that you say that, not that they would call me, but I don't think in New York City they ever reached out to us and said we're at your service, because we've had some decent sized incidents, we'll say.
Yeah, you had one or two.
But I don't. To my recollection, I don't remember the CSCs ever reaching out and saying we can provide these types of things, like train derailments and that kind of stuff.
But to the degree of New York City, the structure of the response is such that there is OEM is almost always involved. So those phone calls could have been being made to OEM,
and we didn't get it.
And then we're just completely short circuited out of the loop.
I think you need to, if you're listening to this and you aren't reaching out and having a coffee or a beer with your CST and finding out their capabilities and getting you have a tool that has a million tools in its toolbox and you're not in communication with them. And I would think it would be a very good phone call, a very good email, and a very good relationship to foster, because I'm sure it does. Much like in your hazmat company or wherever you are, the CSTs are revolving, and that relationship has to be, renewed periodically.
Yeah. And I'm sure many already have that relationship established. At the higher levels. I know the California team works with their higher authorities quite extensively, but maybe there's somebody nearby that doesn't know of them. So your point's well taken, Bobby. Reach out.
It makes me wonder too, like who, if New York City did, if what happened in our theory where they called OEM, when OEM was like, oh no, that doesn't necessarily mean that the incident commander or the chiefs that are on the ground who ultimately might need that resource understand that resource exists, right? Like, we're assuming that the information is flowing well up in that high chain, but even a regular chief on the ground or a science officer or a resource or whatever you want to call your tech ref, has the ability to just pick up the phone and make the phone call direct without going through that massive chain of command.
Yeah, that dotted line phone call. Then if we would get the phone call, we would work it up the massive chain for I bet you your OEM is contacting the New York National Guard whenever there's a big incident, if nothing else, for at least awareness. But they're going super high level to super high level, not down at the tactical level that we're talking about.
They're on the golf course going, "Hey Joe, did you hear that this happened?"
Yep.
Right.
Listen, I hope everybody got something out of this. I definitely got something out of this. I want to thank Jeff for coming on the show, for giving us 2 episodes.
Wow. Again, I should have brought my Yeti on, like the getting salty with the guys do, and have some ice cubes clinking around. But I don't know. Early morning on Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, gentlemen, and all the listeners out there.
Thank you.
I don't know if that would have been appreciated if I walk upstairs with a half-empty Yeti. It's brunch, right? It's brunch.
Brunch.
It is. It's time to go.
Throw some hollandaise sauce on that shit. You're good to go.
Well, thanks a lot for coming on, Jeff, and I'm sure we'll have you on again.
I appreciate the invite, gents. I really had a great time. Thank you very much, and happy Mother's Day.
You too.